Okay, so now we're going to talk about a dependency container with a networking service. So let's talk about what is a practical reason for dependency containers with a networking service. In this context, the dependency container is a way to manage and provide dependencies in different parts of your app. It helps to decouple your app in several ways. Separation of concerns. By using a dependency container, you separate the creation and management of dependencies from parts of your app that use those dependencies. This means that each part of your app only needs to know about dependencies it uses, not how those dependencies are created or managed. Easier testing. When you use the dependency container, it's easy to replace real dependencies with mock versions for testing. For example, you can provide a mock networking service that doesn't make a real network request for testing your views. Flexibility. If you decide to change how a dependency is created, for example, if you switch to a different networking library, you only need to make that change in one place, the dependency container, rather than in every part of your app that uses the dependency. Code organization. A dependency container helps to keep your code organized by providing a central place for managing dependencies. This can make your code easier to understand and maintain. In the provided example that I'm about to do, the dependency container class is responsible for creating and managing the networking service instance. The content view doesn't need to know how the networking service is created. It only needs to know that it can use it to fetch data. This separation of concerns makes the content view easier to test and maintain. Okay, so now we have our dependency container project, and I mean, of course, there's nothing in it really. But I'm going to show you how we're going to create a networking service, right? And in this networking service, I'm not going to just a networking service, and I'm going to have it decoupled using a dependency container. Now, it's not necessarily adhering to any particular design pattern, right? You can look at my former prior videos on design patterns and kind of see how dependency container would work with those design patterns. This is a whole different subject. Let's just talk about abstracting this dependency for this networking service, and this I'm just going to show you how it's done. So let's get to it. Okay, so right here we have in our project we have our networking service, which there's no file. We have our views, which content view is supposed to be over there. I just created this, right? So this is the view right here. Almost nothing. The globe, hello world, blah blah blah, right here. Okay. Then we have a skeleton of a dependency container, but I brought this over here because I didn't want to write out this URL. This URL goes to a real URL, and it's going to be used to make a real networking request. Okay, so let's get busy. First of all, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our networking service. Okay. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and let's create our networking service. So I'm going to go right here, networking manager, new file, networking service, networking service, create, and now I have a networking service. Because I use SwiftUI framework, let's import SwiftUI. Okay, we have this. This is good. Now let's go ahead and class. Okay. Networking service. Okay. O, observable, right? We want an observable object. Observable object. Okay. That's a property wrapper we're going to use. And we're going to, well, it's not a property wrapper, it's a protocol, but we're going to implement that. Let's create a URL property. URL, right? Okay, and now it's not nil, so we need to create an initializer, right? This class has to have an initializer, right? URL, right, is of type what? URL, not string, but URL. Okay, self dot URL equals URL, right? Now let's go over here. Let's go to our functions. Let's create a function. It's going to be called fetch data. Func fetch data. Okay, with a completion handler. And of course, we don't need to necessarily use a completion handler, but we're using it in this example because we know what async await is, right? We don't need a completion handler, but let's do it anyway. And if you don't know what async await is, you need to be watching my videos because I explain it. Okay, escaping. So result type. Data. Okay, data and of type error, right? So now we have everything we need for this. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's fetch data, right? So we're gonna say let task equal URL. Oh, not URL session, not URL session task, URL session dot shared dot data task with completion handler, right? And in this data task, I'm going to say URL. URL is going to be it. And then we're going to go here, return, right? And we have data. Let me get rid of this because this is just in our way. Okay. Oh my gosh. Here. Data response error. Oh crap. Response error. Okay. Delete that. And of course, I'm going to say task dot resume. Okay. Now let's go ahead and this if let error equals error, right? And then we're gonna say completion, right? Dot failure error. Okay. And then of course else if let data equal data, right? And then of course we're going to say completion dot success because we have result types, right? Equals what? Data. We have data back, and that's it, right? So now that part is work, right? That part is working. Remember, we're going to create a dependency. This is a networking service. We're going to create a dependency that has everything. and it's gonna have everything we need, and it's gonna have everything we need to give to our networking service so it can do this API call, right? So the networking service. So let's go over here and let's create a dependency container. Okay. So here we are. We have class, dependency container, observable object, and let's say add published, right? This must be declared as published, var networking service. Now I'm gonna say this communication is much better than when we just had to depend on protocols and delegates. To say, oh man, it made developing more complicated than it had to be. I like what Apple is doing with SwiftUI. Good stuff. Good stuff. Takes out some of the complication out of software development. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put this here, V, because we're passing it a what? We have this URL. This is the URL right here, networking service. Right here, publish networking service. Networking service, right? Networking service has a what? It has a URL. So this is that URL that is going to the networking service. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay, but now, so we have a dependency container, and this is our dependency. When we talked about dependency containers in the last video, right? But this is something that's actually practical, right? You're going to use networking services, right? And the dependency for this networking service is the URL that's being passed to it. Okay. Now, of course, we can make this a lot more sophisticated, right? But we're having our URL hard coded, instead of dynamic based on a query, right? But that's a whole nother that's a whole nother topic. Okay, so we're here. Now let us go to our content view. Okay. Content view, and we need to change up a lot of this, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another property here, at environment object, environment object var container, right, is dependency container, dependency container, right? So just like this, that's what this is, dependency container. Boom. Okay, so I'm here, dependency container, and now we need to get rid of this, all this right here. Everything in the body, actually. I don't want none of it, right? So we're gonna say button action, right? I'm gonna return, right? But I'm gonna do this different. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. So, button action, right? Colon, right? Button action, right? And we're gonna do this right here, button action, and I'm gonna come back here. Text, fetch data. Okay. This is missing arguments. Of course, it's missing arguments. So we have this thing container. Let's go ahead. Before we go ahead and add anything onto this, let's do something else. We need to go to our dependency container services app, our main struct, right? We're gonna go here. We need to add some functionality here. Okay. All right. So again, I'm gonna go here at state, add state object, var oh my god, container, var container equals dependency container, right? So that's what we have container. Now I'm gonna do this dot environment, right? Environment object, and what goes in here is what container. Okay, there you go. So this clears up. Now let's go back to our content view and let's finish this up. So right here is where we need to add our functionality. First, let's go ahead and build this, make sure everything is working. Nothing worse than getting all the way to the end of your project and it didn't work for a while, right? Realizing you didn't work for a while. So, okay, right here, we got that. Okay, there we go. Now, but of course, we don't have anything in down here, right? Let me do this real quick. I want to get rid of this canvas. Oh, there we go. Let's go to this up. Oh man, too beautiful. Okay. So now let's go ahead and let's do this. Okay, content view. We have our button action, and now our container can work. Container dot networking service dot fetch data, right? And then we're going to do this with result, or EZULT, right? Results in, right? We'll say switch, WSIT, switch, result. And we say what? Case dot success, let data, right? Right. And then we're going to say, I'm just going to have something like this print data, and how much. Okay. We have that. And now let's say case dot failure, let error colon print error. An error has occurred. And error has, excuse me, error has occurred. Then we'll say error. Error. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's run this. And if we run it, we should get back data in this console. If not, nothing should come back to this console. Okay, let's see. And of course, what do I see here? App transport security policy was not allowing us. So we have an error. And that problem is we have a problem with our app transport security settings. So I'll go here, go to info, and then when I get down to info, I'll go here, press shift row, right? Add row, right? App transport security settings, right? And then I'm gonna go here, app transport security settings, and then allow arbitrary loads. Allow arbitrary loads, and this should be yes. I think, is that yes? Oh, come on, man. Yeah, that's yes. So now let's go ahead and let's hit this and let's see. So now we have a fetch data. Let's look at our console. And that's it. 1,326 bytes. That shows that we're pulling something back from this API. And of course, I've already showed you how to parse the data that comes back from an API call that gets JSON back. I already showed you how to parse it using custom objects. So again, this is how you set up that dependency for a networking service, right? And you aren't using protocols and delegates. You know, you're using what comes with Swift UI. So yeah, on to the next.